Yo, Portugal, man. I'm out here for the first time. I just had a nice soup. It was delicious. Thank you for bringing me out here. This type of film is a deep film. It's kind of dense, it's a little heavy. So if you feel like knocking out for 10 minutes, going to sleep, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's a real spiritual film. A lot of Jesus Christ, a lot of stuff, a lot of religion. Because Christianity is the major theme of Jamaica anyway. So, you know, this is a film about Jamaica, but it has nothing to do with reggae. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen a film about Jamaica that wasn't about reggae. You know what I'm saying? So part of how I made the film was so it wouldn't be about the music. But whatever questions you have, criticisms, anything, you know, I'm open to it. For about 2 years, I've been traveling with this film, so it's just cooling down now. And I'm working on another project. And damn, yo, thanks for having me. And thanks for that soup.
The primary artistic device that you use is this particular dissonance, I would even say rapture, between image and sound. And I was always interested in what's the origin of it. How did you come up with this idea? And what do you think well, because I have lots of ideas and lots of feelings, what it creates, but what it created for you, so you stick with it.
Well, I grew up in hip-hop culture, and I used to do music videos for different Wu-Tang members. Me and Jizza, Master Killer from the Wu-Tang Clan. And when you do a song, they give you the song first, it's finished. And then you go and you write a treatment, and you just add visuals on top of that. Mm-hmm. So this was like a music video, the whole thing, except I created the audio landscape myself with the interviews that I recorded. So all of the interviews were done separately in different rooms, in different places, but I try to edit it together as if the people were in a discussion with mm-hmm. one another. So there's multiple different themes. But I feel like the capacity of the human brain is so large that you could process material differently. You don't have to look at somebody speaking to you. You know, you could look at something completely different and you'll form your own association between what you see and what you hear. So it's like a novel, you know, when you read a book, and, you know, you rely on your imagination to form an image. Mm-hmm. You have an image here, but you're still kind of relying on your own imagination to make up the story for yourself, you know? Yeah. When you take a picture, it's never the truth, you know what I'm saying? There's always stuff outside of the frame that you didn't capture. So this is just the picture, it's not the full truth. You know, there's a lot that I didn't tell. You know, Jamaica is a very small island, smaller than Long Island, New York, mm-hmm. you know, but it's a whole country. Mm-hmm. But it's huge in its history and its influence throughout the world. So this is just like a snapshot.
Yeah, yeah. If we're speaking about Jamaica, and you told me yesterday that that you grew up in New York, but you've been going back and forth because you have family there, so you spent lots of time there. But watching this film another time, I couldn't help but think how supposedly you intentionally took the perspective almost of an outsider. And I don't know if it's a question, but for me it added another tension that kind of reflected and illuminated how, in some sense, and I might be wrong, I've never been there, all the Jamaicans are in some way outsiders in their own land, and you could get it from like the beliefs, like from the mixture of different cultures that they adopted, and you know, take it as their own and create something different from them. But you still feel that these people were kind of taken from the original land and left without their roots. But they adopted different things and created something their own. But that's like the outsiders, where outside the culture basically grew up into something else. Like, did you have this feeling, and why did you take in this perspective? Yes.
Well, what you said is right. You know, when you look at the dollar bill, the $100 bill in Jamaica, it says, and many people won. You know, so Jamaica is all sorts of people, you know, coming from the Arawak Indians, there used to be indentured servants in Jamaica from India, actually. So Jamaica is a mixture of African, Indian people, Chinese people. A lot of different folks, you know, make up the culture. Only my mother is from Jamaica. My father's from Iran. So I got Iranian and Jamaican heritage. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know my Iranian heritage too well because I grew up in New York with my Jamaican family. But maybe one day I'll go to Iran and, you know what I'm saying, make yellow father or something. I don't know, something like that. But it's a bad joke, man. Said a lot of silly stuff up here. They're recording it too. I better be careful. Nah, man. This movie was just something that I just had to do for myself. When I'm making a film, it's not really for anyone else. You know what I'm saying? I never went to film school. You know, that's why my style is this way, because I'm trying to express myself in a certain way. You know what I'm saying? But Jamaica is a mixture of a lot of people, and you know, there's a focus on prostitution in the film as well. You know, but when the land has been colonized, it's almost as if that land has been raped. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So Jamaica as a land, as a country, is being raped. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And you know, that's what colonialism is. So I'm kind of showing that it's layers, it's metaphors. There's a lot going on in the film. You know, I encourage 2 or 3 watches of the film to really absorb it. You know what I'm saying? I spent 3 years working on the film. You know, my new film is just a couple of months. I'm not working like, you know, my new film is effortless. You know, this film was a lot of effort.
Yeah, going back to this rupture between voice and image and voice, but also like between body and voice, which is still, you know, like plays a big role like in society for black people. I mean, this rupture. And also, I don't know, like I wanted to ask you, how do you feel? Do you can fully identify yourself with these people, with their heritage, or it's also a problematic thing, and there is a rupture for you also, like between?
Well, I'm not really accepted as a Jamaican in Jamaica. Like, I don't look Jamaican. You know what I'm saying? My voice doesn't sound Jamaican. So even in the editing, I cut myself out. You know what I'm saying? I'm in it like, yo, grandpa, like, you know, stuff like that. But I cut my voice out a lot. If you see my first film that I shot in New York, in Harlem, I'm speaking a lot because the way I speak is like New York slang, you know, so it fits there. But in this film, it didn't really fit, so I cut it out a lot. So, you know, I'm accepted amongst my family. There's a lot of my family in the film. You know, that was my grandfather's funeral. My mother is in the movie. My grandmother is in the movie. So they know who I am. But then there were a lot of people that I just met for the first time in the city. And, you know, it was a meeting. So they didn't really know, and they were trying to see what time it was. And I was shooting with the Bolex, which looks like an antique. And Jamaica is a very poor place. So people see me shooting with this old school camera, they want some money. You know what I mean? A lot of documentary artists will say I don't pay my subjects, because once you pay them, it's not authentic. But I don't care about that. I always pay my subjects, but I don't pay them before. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want them to feel like they're acting or something. But after I take a picture or I record an interview, I give them a couple dollars or something. It's not $100, but it's just something small, you know? But I've been going to Jamaica all my life, you know. So many of the people kind of, if they didn't know me, they see me before. I stand out, you know what I'm saying, when I'm walking around. So they kind of know me a little bit, you know.
You mentioned that your family is in the film, and we've seen that obviously. And now you've told us like how you work with the subjects, but still it goes to my next question. There's the really, and even your previous film and here, there's this intimate feeling of almost intimate proximity of you to the people that you film. And at the same time, then you go to filming your real family, which is another level of personal closeness to someone. How was it for you from going from this already really intimate filming to even more intimate, to even more personal filmmaking?
Well, for me, it's a form of therapy. You know, this is like going to the therapist. You know what I'm saying? It's fearless. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I'll just, you know, I'm not keeping any secrets. You know, I wanna get to the truth. I wanna get to the core. Like, I got nothing to hide. You know what I'm saying? So in that way, it's liberating. It feels free. You know, so some people said, no, I don't want to be in your film. Don't take my picture, because I was getting too close, or, you know, they don't know me, so to develop trust is always difficult, you know. With the shooting style, I wasn't using a zoom lens. All of the lenses were prime lenses, so I have to get really close to my subjects, like, you know. And with the microphone, I'm holding the mic like this. It's okay because I'm by myself. If I had a big production crew of 10 people or 20 people behind me, I couldn't achieve the intimacy that I'm able to get. You know what I'm saying? When it's just myself, they're willing to trust me more, you know? But this is a form of therapy also for everyone who sees the film. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the ideas in the film are unpopular, like religion. It's not a popular thing. You know, God, we're living in a world where a lot of people are atheists now, or very confused about God, or they don't want to hear a prayer like that. So my idea was a radical decision to like bring something like spiritual into a film without it having to just be Islam or Buddhism or Christianity, you know what I'm saying? But just pure, you know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of water in the film. You know, to me, water, that's my religion. You know what I'm saying? I have to drink water every day.
Yeah.
I'm praying to the water when I'm drinking it. You know
Drink
what I'm
more
saying?
water.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best advices you can give in life.
Yeah. And obviously with the title, you know, when a woman gives birth, it's just water. It's water. You know, she breaks her water. So as a man making a movie called Black Mother, it was a little weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, people wanted to know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I was smoking a lot of weed, though,
Yeah.
when I was making this film. You know what I'm saying? I don't smoke anymore. It's been like a year. But I may start again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I thought the work was wonderful. I need more time to process, to say something more precise. But it feels like a love letter somehow, and thank you for that. And what I have to say, I don't know if it's the place to say that, and it's a question for the Portuguese people. I'm from Brazil, and it's been happening the last month. I've seen it a lot of times. The subtitles, when there is a translation from works that are very related to Black history, the subtitles, because the translator is not aware of Black history, they translate terms in racist terms. For example, they used brown, they translate to mulata, which in Brazil is a very racist term. And also
Everywhere, basically.
Yeah, I'm just saying from what I know. And the Maroons, for example, they are slaves that ran away, right?
Yes.
And here they translate to castaños because they translate to browns, for example. So I just want to ask if it's, I mean, for example, in Brazil, Maroons are quilombolas. I don't know if in Portugal as well. So I'm just sorry. It's because it happens a lot. I'm just maybe
We should put the Translators Union on notice, you know.
Yeah,
like,
but because it's I mean it goes completely against the beauty of the movie to have someone that doesn't know how to translate that. So I had this many times alone, and now I just wanted to share. So maybe if someone knows.
I want to hug you because in Russia it's the same thing with like any films that deal with something like this. They're usually translated not correctly and not respectfully. Yeah. So I guess it's kind of a worldwide problem, really, for many countries where they do not have the proper and where they did not yet get to the point of, you know, finding the proper words and using the words which were maybe fine like 100 years ago, but not now, you know. So I agree with you. I couldn't understand, obviously, because I don't speak Portuguese, but that's really good that you noticed that.
But yeah, sorry to
it happened.
such a boring comment, but
no, it happened.
But an important one.
There's a word in patois, which is like, you know, the slang, the Jamaican slang. It's really English, but it's just their slang called patois. And when it means like vegetarian or vegan, ital. And someplace it was translated to Italian food. You know what I'm saying? So I wish I could speak Portuguese and Italian and other French, you know what I'm saying? But I can't. So I kind of just rely on it to be, but thanks for the comment, though. I appreciate that. It's a real thing, though. Mulatto, damn. Brown to damn, was crazy.
Don't you find problematic the way you describe women in your film? Because, like, you know, it's in a way, well, it's not how you show women in your film. It's not only about mothership, but mostly it's still like that. And it's a way, you know, like naturalization, like, of women. And, like, you know, so what do you think about that? Like,
well, it's true. You know what I'm saying? You know, at the end of the day, this is still a documentary. You know what I mean? It's not a fiction film. This is a real, if you go to Jamaica, you'll see what I'm depicting in the movie. It is that way, you know, in, you know, most of the country. But it's also tribal, you know, like, you know, we live in a world now where everything is supposed to be the same, and in America it's supposed to be like in this country and that country, and it really, you know, it's a tribal thing where different people have different ways of life. There were things that I did that were different that would never usually be done, like filming a birth in Jamaica. Just to get permission was extremely difficult, because Jamaican women are naturally more conservative, right? Outside of the music, outside of just dancing or anything like that, to film a naked woman was like, what? You want to do what? Because it's not usual. I think probably filming that birth was like the first birth filmed in Jamaica. I don't know, but I think so. And I was in touch with the Jamaican Midwife Association in Kingston, and I told them what I wanted to do. I said I'm a filmmaker, and they never wrote me back. You know, they said this guy's crazy. Like, what? You want to film a birth? So the man who was slapping the woman's rump, her behind on the bed, that was his niece that gave birth in the film. And he's the same man who was negotiating the price of sex with the sex workers or the prostitutes early in the film. And I called him up and I said, man, I'm trying to film this scene. I can't find anybody that's willing to do it. Maybe you know someone. And he called me back and he said, oh, my niece, she's pregnant and she'll be willing to give birth. So when I get to Jamaica, I got to know her. You know, I got to know her family, her parents, her brothers and sisters, and they were a little bit uncomfortable. You know, obviously, I'm a stranger, you know, I'm a filmmaker, I want to film, you know. But in the end, they made me the godfather of the baby. And the baby came out looking mad white, like me. So that's my baby, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even have sex with her, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like that's my baby in a way, you know what I'm saying? And she told me the father was a dark-skinned black man. But you saw the baby, yo. So I really feel like it was spiritual, and I don't know. You know, my mother, she doesn't use any profanity. You know, she's always well-dressed. She's a nurse. She's very religious. And I was nervous to show her the film. You know what I'm saying? Because in the film, you got different people saying different things, and that was the most nervous I felt. But when she saw it, I said, what did you think, Mom? And she was like, well, you show what's going on, and you could have showed it a lot worse, because there's a lot more crime that I didn't show. There's a lot more sexual abuse and stuff like that going on that I didn't show. Sometimes they take children and they sacrifice children in Jamaica. They still do this now. So, you know, I talk about it a little bit in the first trimester, you know, because the film is broken into these 3 parts in the birth, so really 4 parts. But the first trimester is more basic. Like, we're talking about fruits, we're talking about food and people dancing in the street, coconuts, and then it gets deeper. By the second trimester, now we're talking about colonialism and self-hatred, you know what I'm saying? The skin bleaching and stuff like that. And then by the third trimester, it's more spiritual, like it's going into the funeral and, you know, more different ideas, like, you know, like those religious ideas. And then there's the birth, which is like a renewal in a way. But again, you know, when I look at my work, there's always room for improvement. You know, I'm glad the film has a life and it's been traveling and I've been able to travel and present it. But I usually don't watch my film because I want to edit it still. I'm still thinking like, oh, I would change this or change that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you shoot the film, this film in with film and video? You can explain why, and black and white and color too. What is your conception?
Thank you for that question. The thing is, I've been filming in Jamaica since I was 14. And when I began making the film, I went into my archive and I found all of the material that I had from 14 to now. And it was a lot of stuff. The first camera I ever had was a Hi-8 cassette tape camera that my mother bought me. And that takes the little, you know, cassettes.
VHS camera, basically.
It's like a VHS camera, yeah. So some of that made its way into the movie. But also Jamaica has a lot of color and a lot of texture. And I felt like the different mediums, it was about 6 different mediums. Super 16 film, Super 8, then there was mini DV tapes, then it was Hi-8 cassette tapes, it was a little bit of the drone, and then there was like regular digital, high quality digital footage. So most of it is 16 millimeter, but it was just a way to like show the different style, the different approach. Usually when I had the Bolex, it was portraits. Like I was taking more portraits. Yeah, the Super 16 Bolex, it was portraits. With the Super 8, I filmed the funeral. And that was long before I ever knew the movie was gonna be made. It was before my first movie, too, that I filmed that. And that was my way of dealing with my grandfather's funeral, because I would go to Jamaica and spend time with him, and it would be like going to church, you know? And I was always recording it or recording his prayers to me. So when he passed away, it was just natural for me to just continue recording. So it really wasn't a sad thing for me, you know? I don't really believe in death like that anyway, you know? But yeah, to answer your question, it was just a lot of different cameras, different approaches, and also because it was different years. When I started off, I didn't have a budget. Later on, I had a budget by a company named Cinereach, and in New York, they gave me some money to make the film. So I'm very thankful. It was the first time I had a budget.
Have you felt threatened when you were making, because I suppose you were completely on your own when you went out to the streets and in the villages, wherever you went. How did you deal with your own fear or with the situation?
Well, fear is dangerous. Like, if you have fear, it's more dangerous to have any fear. You know, people will pick up on that energy and say, oh, this person's afraid, I could feel him, you know? And then something bad would happen. So really, I was, you know, some of the people in the film were killers. There's actual killers in this film, you know, looking into the camera. The dude with the bandana, he killed people, you know what I'm saying? I know that. But I just understood that I was being protected to make the film because it was so spiritual, you know what I'm saying? So I knew that no matter what, I was gonna survive. You know how sometimes you just know something? So I kind of released myself from any fear, you know? Not that I'm a tough guy or I could fight or anything like that, because I really can't. And I didn't have any gun or any type of weapon, but I just felt that I would be okay, you know what I'm saying? And both of my grandparents had passed away before I made this film, and in a way, I felt like I was communing with them in a way, and that they were helping me make the movie. So the camera itself kind of keeps me not afraid too, because if I'm filming something, it's different than just being there without the camera. You know, if I was just there with no camera, I'd say, what am I doing here? But if I have the camera, then I have a reason to be there, you know? And I always tell my subjects that their opinion is very important to me. I'm trying to tell your story. So I'm here with the camera so I could get your story. And then from that, they say, all right, we got to protect this guy. He's helping us to tell our story. So I become important to them in that way. you know. So a couple of times, like we almost got like into different car crashes, and you know, just, you know, it's Jamaica and people are driving crazy, stuff like that happened. But ultimately, it was pretty safe.
How did you record these interviews? How did you record it? Like, was it separately from the images completely, or like you were inviting people, I don't know,
Yeah,
to,
it was
to
in
the
the
room to speak with them, or how we were doing that?
Exactly. It was like, you know, in a room or in a car. Sometimes, you know, I would just tell somebody to get inside of the car. It was quieter. Or, you know, with some of the sex workers, they had their own rooms. So I would go into their room with the microphone. With the camera, I wasn't using the microphone on the camera. You know, I was shooting a lot in slow motion. And obviously, like the Bolex and the film camera doesn't have a microphone connected to it. So I have a microphone called a Zoom. You know those Zoom H6, the other filmmakers in the room, they probably know that too. And I would, you know, do an interview, and then I would pick up the camera. Now, in my first film, usually the voice you hear is the person you see. In this film, it's a lot less. You'll be hearing somebody and seeing something completely different. In my first film, it was almost not 100%, you know, but this film, it was maybe 40%, and I was showing a lot of other things.
Thank you all so much, though. Thank you, Khalik. That was like an enlightening and illuminating in many senses.
Okay, actually, the mastermind behind the program is Denis, so I'm not really thinking
That's not true,
so often about the subject. But when we started doing that, I realized that, well, if we need to speak about urgency of the program, it's that nowadays almost everyone is a displaced person. Like the world is spinning faster and faster, and so all of us are getting off our roots, and so. Yeah, I mean, it's looking for homeland is the thing that all of us deal with, like looking for identity, and which we cannot really possess fully. So, and even in the program of the festival, a lot of films deal with this kind of stuff. For example, I don't know, Atlantis, the Ukrainian film, or films by Alexey for example, or especially Christian Petzold films deals with the relations to history, your country, trauma, guilt, these kind of things. But what the films we were trying to pick up for our program, first, they are very different, and second, I would say that, and for me maybe it's the most important thing, that all of them, as Khalik's film, all of them really deals with the subject in a very personal way, because looking for homeland is a very personal trip for like every person, and yeah, and it's very contradictional, and it's always in conflict. Conflict is always there. It's not about like the way you can find and keep it. So yeah, that's why the personal experience dimension is very important, and almost all of the films, I would say, in our program are pretty much like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely true about this personal dimension. And when we started to do it, I didn't think that this personal dimension would show up so much. And I already was saying about it before I met Honda's film today, but I'll just repeat myself, if I may. So, yeah, the way this personality, this personal vision of a director shows itself is sometimes in the choice of subject and theme, of course, but it always shows up in the desire to find the one particular true to yourself form and stylistic vision. And while watching and rewatching most of these films, and I thought that, well, Homeland in the public discourse is usually a political subject. It is also a philosophical subject, it is always a personal subject, but when you hear someone speaking about homeland, it's usually the political discourse. It's usually to use someone, to use peoples, to use nations, or just, you know, to distract people from their life and from like their state, and to justify some shady dealings usually. And but all these films made me understand, well, I kind of suspected it, but made me understand that in cinema, which is also controversial, which is also politicized, which is also can be used as a weapon and is often used as a weapon of distraction or of propaganda, the most political thing that could be is finding your own personal style as a filmmaker or as a team that's making a film. And this personal style is also not just the way of being political, but the way of discarding all the bullshit, of getting to the, I'm sorry for my English, of getting to the core of things, of getting to the essence. And the essence of Homeland, even though Homeland is such a trite, banal, and like really not, you know, pleasing word, but getting to the essence of it, you can get to something true about yourself and about the world you live in. So, yeah, and cinema can make you do it. Ines?
No, after them, I don't know much. I know what I can say. It's about Homeland. We had such difficulty also to define and to have a clear definition of Homeland. It was always like, no, but maybe it's that, no, but it's not really that. So kind of brainstorming until today. I think we still not agree on the same definition and the same vision.
That's cool. But we're not in a fascist society. Everybody is.
No, but that's also
has to have it, his own opinion.
That shows the beauty and the powerful also of this kind of, because it's always tension, and process, I think also. So, and we spoke about that before a movie. Also, it's the loss is really present on the concept of homeland, because you're always searching, like trying to reconnect, to create. It's nothing you can. For me, it's you cannot materialize. You cannot say this. I don't know. Also, because maybe my own process of searching my homeland and searching my identity and trying to define what, I don't know, what defines something or a feeling or a material thing. So yeah, and cinema is really a good tool to create these spaces and to be able to show that and to transmit and to share all these feelings without putting words or putting definition, which I think that's a good thing of our program, that the movies speak better than us. So
that's so true.
So thank you very
so
much,
and
see you tomorrow maybe.
Yeah.